Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for attending Achieving Greater ROI at Lesser Total Cost of Ownership, Innovative Approaches to SAP on Azure. With that, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Prabhat Kalalthil. He is the South African lead for Neelant. We also have J.K. Kanis. He is representing Microsoft today. We have Sabat Kazi. He will be our SAP expert today. And we also have Yogesh Singh coming to us from Neelant. With that, I will hand it over to Prabhat.
Great. Thanks, Caitlin. Very warm welcome to all the attendees. And it is my absolute pleasure to host you on this webinar. I hope you and family are safe and doing well. For those of you who are joining us from South Africa, Sanbonani, Goeiedag, Molweni, Dumelang. Well, we are seeing the temperatures are rising and very well on the way to welcome summer. We are very grateful to you for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in this webinar. A very interesting topic being discussed today. And we have got a lineup of some really compelling and really intriguing insights that will be shared by our experts. But before I jump on to the agenda for the day, I would like to share some and leave these key words with you, and which are digital transformation, agility, innovation, and resilience. I think you will consistently hear these right throughout this webinar, this presentation. To set the ball rolling and to share some context for the webinar, and this is the second of the series that we are doing, which is to do with SAP on Azure. We all agree that today one of the biggest points of discussions inside and outside the boardroom is how do we make our business more resilient? Business change, or in the broader context, what we call as business transformation, is a battle fought on many fronts. And one of the most important is the modernization of core business processes. And when we say modernization, we are talking about optimizing our ERP systems. And enterprises can unlock new insights from business data for better decision making and to identify new market opportunities. Large and mid-sized organizations can also get better manage finances and inventories, HR operations, supply chains, and other essential areas. With these benefits insights, forward-thinking companies are upgrading to the latest ERP platforms and moving them to a public cloud service to reduce capital expenditures while increasing agility, innovation, and competitiveness in quickly changing markets. I think it goes without saying that suddenly after this entire COVID-19 pandemic, the need for nimbleness is of paramount importance, and every organization is focusing and talking about it. Traditional on-premise ERP systems has limitations when it comes to levels of agility required to deal with the that is required, like what we have seen the post-pandemic scenario. An organization that had already migrated ERP systems to a public cloud, there are stats available, were able to make changes in their operations relatively easy to maintain high levels of customer service, optimize their internal operations, reduce costs by scaling back service levels, and create resilient supply chains that adjust quickly to changing demands. So important as hyper agility may be during a global pandemic, or perhaps to capitalize on the next large scale business opportunity, migrating essential ERP systems to the cloud offers other equally important possibilities. Now, these moves are enabling some organization, and today we have gathered in terms of discussing the same. As I said, we've got a great lineup of speakers. JK, who's actually joining us from Microsoft South Africa, is going to touch upon some of the essential aspects when it comes to SAP and SAP on Azure. Sabath is definitely going to touch upon some of the details in terms of implementations. But before we get into the thick of the things, let me just quickly take you through the agenda for the day. And what we see from an agenda point of view, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to just share a little bit about Neelant, who we are, what we do. post which we're going to be touching upon the very critical aspect of digital transformation and accelerating digital transformation with SAP on Azure. We're going to be looking at roadmap to SAP on Azure, greater ROI, which is the topic that is of essence today, and followed up with a way forward, and we will sum it up with the question and answer. So to start with, let me just actually share a little bit about Nihilint. Nihilint is a global consulting and services company that uses a human-centered approach for a problem solving and change management. We were born here in South Africa in the year 2000, and the last 20 years of our existence, we have been working very closely with our clients in terms of managing change, and change triggered by micro as well as macro environmental factors. And I believe there can't be any other scenario that describes the need for organizations to manage change, compared to what we have recently experienced and what we will be experiencing the coming few months. As far as the global presence is concerned, as you see, we are present right across all the major continents. And as far as the portfolio of services are concerned, we provide an array of services, right from enterprise transformation consulting, where we work with organizations to create business operating models, to consulting them on digital transformation services, working on very specific aspects of cutting edge technologies, how it's actually embedded and adopted. We have got extensive and deep capabilities when it comes to data science and analytics, and that is where partnerships with likes of Microsoft and SAP comes in very handy. Very in-depth and deep competence and capability, followed up with definitely platform and technology transformation relating activities, and this spans right across various industries. So a wealth of experience in dealing with wide array of technologies. Add to that wide array of problems and challenges and issues that we deal with and help. And to specific for today's webinar, it's all about delivering solutions to our clients that can help them transform, that can help them change and get a better returns in comparatively lesser TCO. So yeah, briefly touching upon our SAP competence and capabilities out here, and what we see out here is years of experience in dealing with this space, 200 plus customers, 450 plus odd engagements. Certain things to note here: 10 plus odd conversions when S4HANA. In fact, one of the first few were against our name. In fact, it's recorded. Some of the case studies that were initially published on SAP were from Nihilint. 50 plus odd S4HANA implementations that we have done, and the number is increasing day by day. Something worth notice is the industry accelerators that we have actually built, and these are very, very critical and important when we have to deliver service at a speed and service that is actually of essence and importance for our clients, because everybody wants to realize the transformation in the shortest possible time and in the most efficient and effective manner. 4+3 odd SAP qualified solutions, which also quite stands out, and the winner of the prestigious SAP APJ Partner Excellence Award for 2017. So absolutely a wealth of experience sitting in the SAP space. Before I move on, I would now like to invite Yogesh. Yogesh manages the Global Alliance for Nihilint for Microsoft, and he has been spearheading the efforts on this front. And I would like Yogesh to kind of like briefly take us through our Azure competence before he hands it over to JK. Yogesh, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pravit. Thanks a lot for setting up the context. I'll just touch upon our partnership with Microsoft to begin with. We have Microsoft for last 16 plus years. It has been a tremendous journey. And last 7 years has been very, very exciting. And that's where we actually started seriously taking very large customers and core customers that we have on their cloud journey, and primarily around the data transformation story, where we have helped our customers along with Microsoft on not only their functional side of the things, but also building those large data infrastructure And once those large data infrastructures have been built, then helping them to design and create dashboards and reports as per their organization needs on top of that. Also utilizing that data to build a lot of analytics, data models, analytics use cases, analytics solutions as per their needs. So that while that journey of entire data-led transformation was happening, Pravit also covered in parallel. We were also extensively building up on our SAP capability. And since this, and JK will really touch upon that, when this entire Embrace program started coming together, we saw that this is the right time really that to bring our Azure capability and our SAP capability together and get onto that journey. And the most exciting part of that, and we've already started experiencing that, is around the entire surround story. And that surround story fits in very well with all that capabilities that we have built on over a period of time around data and analytics, as well as the extensive capability that we have built around Power Platform. And we have already started experiencing, as I mentioned, of building kind of integration layers on top of SAP, building those workflow automations, building those Power BI dashboards outside the core system, as well as building those apps for our customers. So very, very exciting times really. Without holding you back, I will just now hand it over to JK, who heads the entire cloud and enterprise practice at Microsoft, and he will take us through the great digital transformation with SAP on Azure topic. Over to you, JK.
Great, thank you so much, Yogesh, and welcome everyone. Just a quick note of appreciation to the team from the Healand. Microsoft is a partner-led organization, and the Healand's a very key partner for us. So looking forward to the session with you guys tonight. So I want to start off and maybe just talk about, what we're seeing in terms of the context of the South African market. And we definitely see that digital transformation is top of mind. I love this quote from Satya Nadella, our global CEO, where during the COVID pandemic, he shared that we've seen 2 years of digital transformation compacted into several months. To give you an idea, we saw Azure grow over 750% during this time. We saw Teams explode in terms of growth, and it's just been phenomenal to see what the impact of that is. If we look at the local South African market and maybe some of the IDC data, we can certainly echo that if we move to the next slide. And what you see in front of you is a study by the IDC that shows the South African market context pre-COVID and post-COVID on the right-hand side. And the top part of the chart is the cloud growth, and then the bottom part is the on-premises software industry. And maybe not to worry so much about the numbers, but the key trend there in terms of the rectangle circled is that you can see that there has been significant, decrease in terms of investment of on-premises. If we look at ERP as an example, we see that it's contracting, almost 10% just in the last few months since the COVID pandemic has hit its peak. And then if we look at the top of the chart, we see that cloud workloads are growing at 20, 30+%. So this shows you that there's a massive transformation happening in the market, and people are moving away from the traditional CapEx on-prem model to the more agile, OpEx-based model. If we maybe just look at kind of the global footprint of Azure, in terms of the next chart, we can see that Microsoft has invested significantly globally in terms of our data center capability. We're very proud that we now have 61 regions across the globe. And more importantly, on the African continent, we are the first hyperscale cloud provider that has actually opened data centers. Apart from the 2 data centers we have in South Africa, we have significant points of presence across the African continent. And then obviously for our customers that have a global footprint, we have a multitude of choice in terms of where they can host their Azure services. So we're very proud of the fact that we have more Azure regions than AWS and GPC combined. And we also have more compliance and accreditations than any one of those vendors. So rest assured, from a security and compliance point of view, you're absolutely at the cutting edge of what's possible with cloud. Maybe if we go to the next chart, we can see that, from a South African data center performance point of view, we've had a significant, performance in the year and a half that we've been open. We've grown the Azure business more than 104%. Our data and AI has just exploded in growth. We're almost 4x the growth factor that we were a few years ago. And what's also interesting to see from an open source point of view, that we are driving record numbers in terms of growth. In our partnership with SAP and SUSE, obviously as the platform of choice for hosting SAP, we saw 900% year-on-year growth in the last year, which is just phenomenal if you compare that to other regions across the globe. What's also important is that we have various entry points for customers in terms of Azure Marketplace and the Azure App Source. Give customers a lot of choice in terms of adopting best practice, adopting IP that's been packaged, and the best configured, optimized solutions. So for SAP, for example, you can go in and select the SUSE workloads right off the marketplace, and literally within minutes start rolling out the configuration for that. And then we have a very nice Azure services roadmap where we're introducing a lot of new capability into the market. So lots to look forward to in terms of building out digital capability. If we look at in terms of some of the ERP challenges that we have today with traditional ERP, the feedback we're getting from customers is that, first of all, the traditional approach lacks speed and agility. The second is that we've seen a lot of silos in terms of data, so it really boxes customers in terms of what's possible. The traditional hosting on-prem or in a hosted partner data center is very expensive, and often you have to over-provision the environment to make sure you can allow for growth over a multi-year period. And then from a security and compliance point of view, it adds additional cost and challenges. If we look at why cloud is such a great attractive option and why we're seeing phenomenal growth, is really around the agility and automation. So, we've seen examples where customers would take, literally months to get their on-prem capability set up for SAP, and within hours have the same configuration in the cloud due to automation and scripting and a lot of the capability behind that. And the OpEx model is really great for customers, being able to pay month to month versus, long-term CapEx outlays. And then as Microsoft, we're very proud of the fact that we invest a huge amount of focus in terms of security and compliance. We spend over $1 billion a year in terms of our security focus, and we have really great complementary products like Azure Sentinel that will help customers in terms of their cloud journey. If we look at the Azure platform specifically on the next slide, we can see that there's some really key areas that differentiate us in terms of the competition. First of all, the Embrace program, as you guys mentioned, between SAP and Microsoft, is really a market-leading initiative. For those of you that don't know, SAP actually run their own implementation on Azure, and vice versa, Microsoft runs our ERP system on SAP. So there's a 25-year relationship in terms of engineering investments, in terms of working together, and in terms of cloud agility. So customers are rest assured that they will have an incredible experience. From a security compliance point of view, we are leading the market in terms of what we're able to do there. And we have security operations centers across the globe with over 3,500 staff full-time just looking at cloud security. So we can offer customers great experience in terms of adopting the cloud, and in many cases, much more secure than what their on-prem solutions would be. From an innovation point of view, apart from the great work that we do with SAP, we have, also some incredible innovation on the cloud platform in terms of IoT, in terms of DevOps, in terms of Kubernetes, and building cloud native applications. So you can surround your SAP environment with a really rich portfolio of services including tight integration with Office 365, Power BI, and the Power Platform. So giving you a really great building blocks in terms of your cloud journey. And then lastly, it's very important that there is trust established, right? And the fact that both SAP and Microsoft run on each other's platforms shows you, the kind of trust there is in terms of the technology and the innovation. If we move forward from there, what is very interesting is to look at different scenarios and workloads that customers are adopting. So initially, we see, some of the key scenarios are test and dev. As customers are, initially fearful of the cloud, they would prefer to put test and dev in the cloud. And once that has proven itself, and it's very easy to do so, then customers are, looking at production environments. So we have some of the biggest organizations in South Africa now currently, going through those phases of test and dev, putting production in the cloud, and then reaping the benefits of things like DR, having multiple regions, having availability zones, being able to do archiving, and comprehensive data analytics. So there are lots of different benefits, in terms of that. The ability to roll out much quicker, the great security platform, and then as we're talking tonight around ROI, significant reduction in TCO, which is a key factor for customers adopting the cloud. What's also important to note is from a reliability and resilience point of view. If we look at, some of the great, guarantees we offer, and if we go to the next slide in terms of the reliability capability, we see that from a single VM instance, we offer out of the box 3 nines money back guarantee support, right, in terms of availability. So as customers are architecting their SAP solutions and moving to S/4HANA, they want to make sure that they can have that resilience. And if we look at moving from a single VM into redundancy within the data center in terms of availability sets, and then more importantly into things like availability zones, we can start driving some very significant numbers. On storage, for example, we can offer 12 nines with the great partnership and the work that we've done in terms of creating highly available architectures for SAP, and the great engineering work being done in the partnership as part of Embrace. So really great story there, and make sure that customers can have business critical uptime, money back guarantee in terms of that. And we are the only cloud provider that actually offers, guaranteed SLAs in terms of that. Then in the next slide, if we look at, kind of what are some of the underpinning reasons, we've done some great work and a lot of research in the market around the early adopters of customers. I'd encourage all of you to reach out and download the Forrester SAP on Azure study. You'll see the link at the bottom of the slide there. But it really talks about, the ROI story. And I'm going to let the team share much more on that, but want to touch on a few key highlights there. The first is to be able to eliminate CapEx. We're seeing mass adoption from customers saying, we no longer want to own assets. We don't want IT assets. We don't want to own data centers. We actually want to go to an OpEx-based model. We don't want to buy hardware anymore. In this day and age, we literally want to spin up a workload, use it, and then shut it down when we don't need it and stop paying for it. The second is really, making sure that you can right-size the environment. And cloud allows you to do that. The agility and the scalability of cloud means you don't have to over-provision the hardware. You don't have to buy with a 5-year view in mind, because you can easily scale up and scale out as you need to in terms of those workloads in the cloud. And that's really where the power of Azure, comes in. In terms of deployment, being able to script environments, and partners like Nihilan's done an incredible job in terms of building automation. So you can deploy very fast. We've got scenarios where customers can deploy test and dev literally within an hour. So being able to leverage that and drive down some of that cost of ownership is important. And then all the other important things around disaster recovery, backup and archiving, saving on storage cost, all those are, if you add all of that up, really drives a fantastic ROI story. So end to end, very compelling. maybe to close off with just around, one customer scenario. We've been working in the market locally. We've got lots of customers adopting, but one of the early benefactors of the ROI story is, the Gauteng legislature. So a public sector customer that betted heavily on Azure and betted on, SAP on Azure specifically. Just by simply migrating their on-prem environment into the cloud, they had an immediate cost savings of 1 million rand. So $70,000 right off the bat, just in terms of that initial migration. And that has continued to grow as they've built out their capability in Azure. So I'd encourage all of you to explore, leveraging the power and agility of cloud. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Prabir. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Great. No, thanks, JK. Thank you so much. That actually gives us a very good perspective about Microsoft's commitment to really fast track this digital transformation journey for a number of our clients. JK, just one question that actually kept coming back when you were kind of like taking this through. How I think there is always this uncertainty in the minds of the clients and the customers, right, when they approach it in the very first discussion. And I'm sure that you're also working very closely with the partners on that front. So I'm sure there is a lot of investment from Microsoft in terms of educating and creating awareness as well, right, with clients, with customers out here in the geography. You want to touch upon a little bit on that front?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the key success factors for us is driving readiness and education. So we have key programs that invest in helping customers build the skills and also helping our partners build the skills. So we run things like the ESI or the Enterprise Skills Initiative. We offer free solution assessments for SAP. So for qualifying customers, they can get some very nice hand-holding. And then in addition to that, we have great engineering programs. So we have the program called Fast Track for Azure, where we can actually help both the partner and the customer make the right design decisions and make sure the architecture is correct even before they deploy. So there's some really good investments from Microsoft side, and we also have some incredible IP. So we have the Cloud Adoption Framework, and we have other key assets that are free downloadable materials for customers and partners to leverage in terms of making sure they have an incredible experience as they venture into the cloud.
Amazing, amazing. I think that speaks volumes in terms of the opportunities that are out there for clients and prospects to kind of like, take benefit of all these investments. And definitely, I think it kind of like supports the entire argument of better and quicker ROI and at the lowest possible TCO for that matter. So absolutely brilliant. Now, thanks, JK. Thanks for providing us with that insight. And with that, I would like to now hand it over to Sabahat to take us through the topic of the roadmap to SAP on Azure, so some very core implementation experience and how he and the team at Nihilent, who are driving this SAP journey, are gonna talk us through. Sabahat, by way of introduction, leads our SAP competence at Nihilent, entrepreneur, and 25 plus years of experience in the SAP space. Being very, very closely involved with various structures within SAP in terms of driving some of the key solutions in the market, not only in India but globally. A very passionate individual. I think his ability to kind of like work with teams and driving the entire motivation, and a true leader in sense, is actually at the center and the pillar of the growth that we have seen in our SAP business. So with that, without any further ado, Sabahat, over to you. I've kept this time your introduction short, right, Sabahat? Okay. So yeah, over to you, Sabahat.
Thanks, Prabhat. That's very humbling, actually. Yeah, it's a long journey, in fact, in SAP, and now looking at SAP and Microsoft coming together on such opportunities, I think it's really wonderful. And thank you, JK, for sharing such an insightful presentation with us. A lot of activities, a lot of initiatives happening over a period, and how customers, how partners can come together and exploit those. I think that's what we should focus on. Let me just start with what's happening to our personal lives. All of us, I think, have been impacted last decade or so, be it the way we shop, the way we entertain ourselves, the way we travel, the way we bank. A lot of changes have happened. The kind of experience that we are used to, it's amazing. But at the same time, when we look at our work lives, the kind of systems that we work with, the problems that we face, the time it takes for us to probably download an app or make a change in our business process, I think we are living in two different worlds. And that's where changes like this, what is happening both with SAP in terms of introduction of the S/4HANA system, as well as the SAP Cloud Platform Initiative, as well as what is happening in Microsoft through the Embrace program, SAP on Azure, Power Platform. There are so many things which are happening. I think our personal lives and our work lives, I think over a period of time are going to kind of converge. You'll not see that kind of a difference. And we'll become more agile in terms of the way we work with our businesses. I think I don't need to even say this, but enterprises need to become intelligent. There are a lot of startups and a lot of competitors in your businesses who are becoming intelligent, who are making use of these new technologies, and they are learning from this, the mass of data that is getting generated. They are now able to use things like machine learning. They are able to predict what's going to happen. And I think that gives them a lead, that gives them a way of surviving even times like COVID, just as an example, how people who were on the intelligent platform, on SAP's concept of an intelligent enterprise, how they were able to get over this crisis in particular. So the idea of an intelligent enterprise obviously is that you are collecting information about your brand, product, customer, your other stakeholders, employees, and you are generating an insight, and that insight is being used for better decision making, for predicting. You are able to identify opportunities, strengths, and then utilize them for the advantage of the company. You achieve it by optimizing your existing processes, by extending your business processes, collecting even more data, and even transforming the company's value chain or the business model, and you create new revenue streams for yourself. I think this is going to become the primary thing. Even the employees in organizations, instead of doing the monotonous, repetitive jobs, a good amount of time, in fact, is spent in doing such jobs. Slowly, it's going to move away into more high value-added jobs where humans are going to be augmented by insights generated by the system, by recommendations that are generated by the system. And I think we are going to see the idea of an intelligent enterprise actually turning into reality for most companies in a very short period of time. However, when you see the organizations today, everyone wants to dream about an intelligent enterprise, but most of our landscapes look something like this. They are complex, too many systems talking to each other. If somebody wants to make a change, if business comes up with an idea and they say, let me do this tweaking, it kind of, I mean, I know people shake in terms of touching the system because processes have been ongoing for years and nobody wants to take a risk. It takes months before you actually bring a change or innovate something into your systems. I think this is something which most of us would be familiar. This is a kind of a landscape diagram of any company using SAP. Yeah. And the challenges are growing every day. For example, there are a lot of manual slow processes, and overall they slow down the entire organization, the entire value flow in the organization. You're not able to innovate, and even from an inside perspective. So it's not just that if you have SAP, all your data is going to reside in SAP. There are so many silos. Some research I was reading said almost 40–50% of the data, structured data, resides outside of your core ERP system. Now, how can we bring all that data together, break those silos, and actually get a realistic view about your organization? And I think with SAP and Microsoft together, I think this is a unique offering that we are now having with the Embrace program. You may have SAP applications like ECC or S/4HANA, or you may have SaaS applications like SuccessFactors, for example, which are running your business processes. At the same time, when it comes to Office applications or your analytics system, you'll have applications which are there from Microsoft. Now, what if you're able to look at this complete portfolio as one portfolio rather than looking at them in pieces? I think it's a big change which is happening. The competing as an ecosystem, which used to be a term, we are seeing it right here, where two giants have come together to offer in a portfolio like this. So you have a business technology platform where you can innovate. At the same time, you also have platform services complementing this from Microsoft. And obviously, the entire thing can be on the Azure infrastructure. So we saw the challenges earlier. Now, what happens? Why is Azure uniquely positioned to address those challenges? You can, as JK mentioned earlier, I mean, it's very easy to scale up, scale down your systems. You have business continuity. You have the assurance of security. You have the data centers which are taking care of your data residency requirements. You can be very fast in terms of your processes. You can accelerate your innovation. You can quickly develop things. You can quickly pilot things, experiment, and make things operational in a very short amount of time. We have a customer where they are able to, during the COVID crisis, in fact, they wanted to develop an application, and it took them literally 3 days to make something productive. These are things which are unheard of. We are all used to the legacy SAP systems, and I'm sure you will also, if you are used to working with a larger ERP, you'll also know it's not easy to make those changes quickly. And most important thing is the insight. There is so much data in the world. You can't have somebody going through a report and arriving at a decision. So with these silos being broken, with us getting data both from SAP as well as non-SAP system, providing a 360-degree view of our business, this has now become an imperative. And then there are multiple reasons. While I talked about from a digital transformation perspective, there are other reasons why people are looking at moving on to Azure. For example, there could be infrastructure events. Maybe your hardware is having an end of life, software is having an end of support. So you want to actually move, and what best to move to than something like Azure. Then there are operational enhancements also which keep happening. You may have a roadmap because all SAP customers on ECC or the older system will have to move to S/4HANA as part of the roadmap. And if that is on your cards, then definitely it makes more sense to move to Azure. And then you may want to use a lot of these new features, new technologies, blockchain and IoT and all. How do you bring it all together as part of your digital transformation initiatives? I think that's also something that is one of the reasons why people are looking at moving to Azure. And then there are multiple options for a customer of SAP to move to Azure. One could be a greenfield implementation. So you may not be on SAP and you now want to implement SAP. So how do you do it? You also have an option where you are already on SAP, either on ECC or other systems or BW, and now you want to lift and shift or migrate to HANA. And again, that's one way of moving to Azure. And the third, and probably the easiest and the lowest hanging fruit, is why not move your DR onto Azure? So we'll see these in a little more detail. Greenfield obviously is the easiest part, where you are actually deploying your system. It's very easy to provision a system, very easy to install your system. If you are on Azure using Cal, a library which is available, and you can move everything onto cloud, have your system up in weeks, if not months. It's like you start a project and you have your system available, ready to be configured. Then you have the option of moving. So there are multiple options in terms of moving. One is obviously the lift and shift to cloud, no change, as it is, the system is moved. The other could be lift and migrate to the cloud, which may involve an OSDB migration, for example. You may be on maybe AIX as a hardware, and then you want to move to Azure. That's B. And C is where you lift, shift, and migrate. And you also take the benefit of the HANA database. So what we call it as suite on HANA, you move on to suite of HANA. And D is a transformation, because while suite on HANA is just about the database becoming HANA, or in-memory and columnar database, when we talk about S/4HANA, we are talking about not just the benefit of the database, but also simplification, also use of high-end technology, for example, machine learning. So a lot of other features, real-time analytics, all that is there as part of S/4HANA. So these are the 4 different things that you can do if you're already on an SAP customer as such. The first one obviously is the lift and shift to the cloud. And this is as I mentioned, it's an as-is migration. You have your existing SAP instances, which you just move to the cloud. No upgrade, nothing. There is no change in your application functionality. Whatever was working earlier works, but now you have moved on to the cloud. This is, I think, one of the easiest things to do. Then you have an option of lift and migrate to cloud. This is more of a cross-platform migration for customers, as I mentioned, who are using maybe HP UX, AIX, Solaris. It does involve the migration from a Unix-based architecture to an Intel-based platform architecture. There are changes in the operating system as well as database kernel level. And broadly, the core functionality of SAP remains the same. And once you have moved on to Azure, then you can look at how you can move to suite on HANA, for example, or move to S/4HANA from there. And C is the lift and shift. This approach is for customers who are running ECC and want to leverage the benefit of the HANA database more in terms of speed instead of going with the traditional database. So this way you can move from your other database onto HANA. And if you are on EHP 7 or 8, you can also use Fiori applications. There are a lot of Fiori apps which are available. So you mobile enable your transactions as well. And the most important, I think, is this is really the key to digital transformation. S/4HANA can be your digital core, and you can build things around that using, for example, the SAP Cloud Platform. But this involves either a conversion or you do a greenfield implementation. Conversion would be the data stays as it is. It gets migrated from the older tables to the newer, simpler, smaller tables. And there is a lot of new functionality also which you are able to use. New features, for example, machine learning and so many other features which are also available in this kind of a move. And as I mentioned, the lowest hanging fruit to use Azure for disaster recovery for you. I mean, you're using this as a secondary, as a DR system. And this can be pretty economical, in fact, from an ROI perspective, because one way you can reduce the TCO itself is to have a smaller instance for running DR and upscale only when you're doing a DR drill or when you are actually having a DR scenario, because higher memory is required only while you're actually using that system. Otherwise, you don't need much memory for it. Now, coming to the important topic of return on investment, partially this has already been covered by JK, and I have also mentioned a few things in this. But again, referring to the Forrester Consulting report, which is available, JK has also shared a link. This is just an example. If you are incurring this amount of cost, or if it's an on-prem system, if you move on Azure, there can be a good amount of saving. The report from Forrester itself says more than 100% ROI by 9 months, 50% reduction in staff, yeah, and faster time to deploy new releases. So what all do you benefit? First thing is you don't have to incur cost on the on-prem hardware. Sometimes the hardware is old and you need to pay maintenance cost for it. So that can actually go away. Then you also have to incur the cost of a physical data center space. Again, if you move to Azure, you don't need to. And most of the time when you're provisioning or you're sizing SAP hardware, you actually oversize, because you look at what is the peak event? When is my system going to be used the most? And that's the figure that you use to size your system. But with the cloud, you actually do away with that. You don't need to over provision your hardware because you can always scale up anytime. And then you need a lot of people to maintain your systems, your infrastructure. When you move to the cloud, you're actually moving it away from you. So you can reallocate the people who are managing your infrastructure today to other areas. One of the key things that I keep hearing from a lot of CIOs is they have an IT budget, but that IT budget is going into costs, which actually do not give a lot of business value. They're just keeping the lights on. And CIOs, CDOs, even CEOs want to now see innovation coming in and see how they can bring down the overall expense on the lights on part of the business. And I think that's where, again, moving to Azure plays a big role. Another important thing is how long does it take to provision a system? If business wants something, you would want to experiment with it, create a sandbox, for example. It takes a lot of time. But if you are using Azure, it can be set up in hours. I mean, you don't need to spend too much time on just arranging a basic system for yourself. So these are some of the quantifiable benefits or return on investment that you get by moving on to Azure. I would recommend again that you go through the case study, so you'll also get to know in detail some quantified figures on how we can benefit from move to Azure. The other unquantifiable part, I think the Embrace program itself, I also talked about how you are looking at not the portfolio of SAP, not the portfolio of Microsoft. You're now looking at the portfolio together, a very complete portfolio that extends from business applications to office applications to infrastructure and so on. And also the intelligent technologies that are coming along with it, both from SAP as well as from Microsoft. So I think the partnership between SAP and Microsoft is no longer, or I would say it wasn't also related to the infrastructure. It is now much beyond. And that is something that the customers can leverage. You also have a powerful and scalable cloud. When you want to scale it up, when you want to have speed, all that performance is available on the cloud. It's obviously secure, reliable, proven. JK showed a slide on the kind of uptime which is available and the options which are available for customers. And then the other more important thing is how you can bring the data from various silos into one place and get a one view of your business. Very critical in today's times. Yeah, and so how do you go ahead? How do you do this? The way forward I would suggest is have a vision, identify what you want to do, which systems you want to move to the cloud. You may start only with the DR, or you may say, I will only move my dev quality onto Azure, or you may decide to go all out. So it depends on you. Have a vision. So get those requirements together. How many systems are there? We can help you in the assessment of how you can move, how much would be the downtime if it is required at all, and how easy it would be for you to actually move. We'll do some compatibility checks as well, and we'll propose a roadmap how you can probably move from just one system being on Azure to probably moving the entire system on Azure. We'll also work out an estimation, as I mentioned, both timelines as well as how long it will take, and even help you build a business case. So you see the value which will come out of this initiative. Yeah. So what I've tried to cover is more of what are the advantages, benefits, as well as what is the return on investments, both in terms of quantifiable value as well as non-quantifiable value, and what is the way forward, what you should look at in terms of moving. So I will open the webinar for any questions that you might have.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Thank
Sabat. So like he said, if you guys have any questions, if you want to enter them into the questions pane on the GoToWebinar menu, please do so. We did receive a few questions through the presentation, so I will start with those as others can type their questions. So the first question is, as a part of the ROI calculations, why is it important to lay emphasis on unquantifiable items?
Yeah. So it's not just that you are looking at moving from a capex to an opex model, or in today's time, it is important that you actually are able to leverage these technologies. And with the Embrace program, what Azure and SAP together are offering, you can improve your processes, you can gain insights in the system, you can create new business model using these technologies. So that's very important. If it was just a lights on kind of a scenario today, I would have said, yeah, just look at the quantifiable benefits. But the unquantifiable benefits are more and perhaps even more important than the quantifiable benefits. So I think that's the reason why you have to look at them.
Great, thank you so much. Next question we have is, we have apps that are built on licensed tools interacting with the SAP on-prem. Would this impact the migration, and are there any alternatives that you could suggest?
Can you come again?
Yeah,
I lost you for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, Sabat, I think it is all about, I think it also resonates with, to some extent, what Yogesh talked about, the whole SAP surround strategy as well. So I think the question is about, specific apps that have been built that feed off the core from SAP. So, in terms of the entire SAP Azure journey, are there any dependencies, or, there are alternatives that one can actually possibly look at?
Yeah, so in fact, we can look at Power Platform as well, alternative, where we can move a lot of these solutions onto Power Apps, for example. And the ease with which you can actually move into using these apps as well as integrating with SAP, because many times you find these apps would have some integration point with SAP. Say, for example, somebody wants to do a purchase requisition approval, developing it on Power Apps, integrating it, for example, with Teams, generating those notifications. I think it makes much more sense to move those apps. And I would not suggest if they have been built for a long time with a lot of complexity, but now the ease with which we can develop these apps on Power Apps, I think it's one should actually look at a roadmap of moving all those apps onto the Azure platform.
Absolutely, yeah. Sabat, in fact, the aspect that you touched upon, the unquantifiable, I think it's such a key element, because this is the stated benefit, or these are the benefits that one can tap into, which they are kind of like are not able to do it in the given scenario. So it's intangible benefits, right? And it's sometimes it's quite hard to convince somebody about these unquantifiable benefits that they are foregoing, given the scenario and situation that they are. So I'm sure you must be doing a lot of case profiling, continuous measurement of benefits, showcasing, I think extending the Forrester study as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll just give you an example. There's one customer of ours where when we started the implementation of SAP itself, they were doing only 2% of their business on the e-commerce platforms. And then suddenly it increased, and the need for automation, for data to flow from the system nobody could handle it manually. So this is where the need for automation comes in. And with the changing scenario, if you are not using these cutting edge technologies or platforms, you'll be found lacking, you'll lose market share. And there are a lot of people, startups, for example, the way they are exploiting technology, and they're doing it because they are on platforms like these. So they can do it very quickly. They can scale up when the business scales up. So these are things which every company should actually look at. They should look at the platform approach, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. No.
Great, thank you guys. We have a few more questions that have come in. The next one is, what is more recommended, ITO operating system, SUSE, or Red Hat? And SUSE is S-U-S-E.
So if I can maybe take that one, just from a Microsoft experience point of view, 95% of the world's SAP on Azure implementations actually run off SUSE. So it is by far the leading choice in terms of platform capability.
Great, thank you so much, JK. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. The next question we have is, do the South Africa data centers offer all the VMs required for high availability production systems on SAP?
Yes, so very good question. From a Microsoft data center point of view, we offer what we call the M series capability, which is the biggest compute VMs that you can get. They are SAP certified. We offer those standard in both our North and our West DC. And we are also in the process of rolling out what we call availability zones. So we are nearing final testing around also providing customers 3 availability zones that will allow the highest resilience capable in terms of SAP implementations with the lowest latency.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And it looks like that was the rest of our questions. So if you guys want to introduce the free assessment, I think we could do that and then wrap up.
Awesome, great. Now, thanks, Caitlin. I think a series of questions tells the level of interest and that has created this particular session has created amongst the participants. So thank you so much for that. And I believe just circling back from where I started, digital transformation, resilience, nimbleness, agility, and I think one of my key takeaways from what Sabahat also shared, it's not just about run all the time. It is also about the innovation aspect that is fueled by this entire migration or transition. So there is a great proposition out there for those who are contemplating. Those who are still in doubt, please feel free to give us a shout. The details are mentioned on the screen for you. And we are very happy to come and engage with the stakeholders, with the leadership team, and happy to do the initial workshops in terms of providing the guidance, creating the roadmap. And we have got Microsoft and the leadership team represented by JK and the rest of the team out there to extend further help and assistance. But definitely we together are committed on this journey, and we really want to make a difference in the South African market with this pitch, with this proposition. So with that, a big shout out to all of you and a big thanks. And on behalf of Sabahat, JK and Yogesh, we are very much looking forward to engaging with you and the broader markets in South Africa to really make a difference in this space. So thank you very much, and keep well and stay indoors, stay safe. Now that used to be the thing of the past. Now we are in level 1 lockdown, and probably our president will come online sometime soon to talk more about easing the restrictions. So very much looking forward to meeting you all in person and with all the different the safety and the security and taking all precautions. So stay safe and yeah, signing out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.